Welcome to the fourth edition of the Occupy Fantasy Partnership with DraftKings. I'm Chuck Silver. This is Chris Rooney. We're here to talk about some stacking concepts in best ball. We're going to do a live draft. Chris, how are we doing today?
Chuck, I'm doing great. It has been about a month since you and I got on stream here or on a recording to kind of go over some best ball stuff. So other than obviously today's agenda to talk about the optimal way to build your rosters for tournament success, I'm just excited to pick your brain, man, over kind of all the things that we have learned over the last month that have been affecting the drafts that I'm sure you have been doing just as many as I have. So it's going to be a really good conversation here, and just looking forward to getting into it and do another draft.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing how some of your player takes have changed because I know mine have. So we'll get into that. But guys, just remember, football season will be here soon. If you're drafting this early, DraftKings Best Ball is the move. If you've never played best ball before, it's simple. You draft your fantasy team, and that's it. No lineups, no waivers. Your lineup is automatically set with your best player scores each week. Right now, DraftKings is giving all customers a can't miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for just $20, and you'll get another best ball ticket to play for free, getting you a second chance to take home a big hit.
So we got the ninth pick here in a best ball $15 million millionaire contest with $2 million being awarded to first here, Chuck. And before we get started, as a reminder, all the money in this contest is awarded at the end, and DraftKings is not making one millionaire; they're making two millionaires in this tournament. Second place also going to take home $1 million. So this is a really fun tournament to be entering. And of course, it is best ball week here for DraftKings, and we're excited to be partnered with DraftKings to present you this series of best ball videos this year. And one of the things that has led you and I and everybody else that has had success in the best ball space to that success over the last few years is building correlated lineups. Of course, I'm talking about stacking. Chuck, I know in 2023's Best Ball Millionaire, you were able to get a team in that upper 0.01%, finished in like the top 30. Took go home, I think, a little around 30 grand for that. I had a playoff best ball team actually win a smaller contest last year for $5,000. So if you guys were looking for a little bit of that or explanation, or maybe asking yourselves, why should I listen to these two guys? I guess that's it. You and I have both experienced a little bit of success in this space.
Yeah, I would say what I'm most proud of is I've made more than my fair share of finals. And so, the variance in any one week of a playoff final is going to be tremendous. And so what we want to see is just consistent teams that get there. And they don't all necessarily have the same build. But, stacking, very important. It kind of ties into playoff correlation a little bit too, which we'll get into more detail on in episode 6, I believe. But today, I mean, stacking. Why do we stack? It's a very basic part of fantasy football. A lot of people still don't do it. And to me, I've been thinking about this all day. The most basic thing I can think of, it's just one less thing we have to get right. And so, what is a stack, first of all? Quarterback plus wide receiver, quarterback plus wide receiver plus tight end, quarterback plus wide receiver plus running back, whatever combination you want to do, 2 or 3 stacks. I think that's just the most basic part of drafting best ball. And it's pretty much what guides the main parts of my team.
So I know you know this. I know Brian knows this. A lot of our viewers, they may know this, but a lot of them may not. I am a father. I've got a couple of kids. I have a 3-year-old son. And earlier today, like you, I've been thinking about doing this video all day. I'm building Legos with my son. And it really got me thinking about the topic of drafting this team, Chuck. You know, when you buy, or maybe, I don't know, do you ever play with Legos?
I'm a big Lego guy, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you know how you buy like kits and they come with directions on how to like basically get to the end and build the thing on the front of the box that you thought you were getting when you bought the Legos. Let me make my pick here and I will finish my analogy. We got the ninth pick. ADP says I should take Malik Neighbors here, Chuck, and I think I'm just going to do that because I think I'm a little. I don't think I have as much Malik Neighbors as I want to have just yet at this point. So we're going to do that. And keep the Legos in mind here because I'm going to talk about the Lego pieces that we need right now. So when we're building with Legos, right, you kind of have a strategy that they give you. They give you the roadmap from A to Z, how to build the perfect Lego set. Well, that's kind of what we're looking to do with stacks, right? Like I have Malik Neighbors on my team. There's got to be a quote unquote ideal way to build a team around Malik Neighbors in a best ball tournament. And when we look at the stack seeker that we have at occupyfantasy.com, completely free tool, we can see the playoff stack opponents for the New York Giants. Now, if we wanted to correlate exclusively with Malik Neighbors, we should be focused on players from the Commanders, the Vikings, and the Raiders, because those are the teams that Neighbors is facing in those crucial playoff weeks where all of the prize money in this contest is tied up. I know that there's more to this than just this kind of simple just stack with your first round pick analogy that I'm making right now, because we're building a 20 round team and there's plenty of correlations up and down the board that we have to include. But I guess in a roundabout way, Chuck, what I was getting at is kind of like, I kind of see this as like, okay, how do we put the best Legos together to make the best fantasy team for our tournament here? Does that make sense?
Oh, I completely agree. And Malik Neighbors was our first pick. We took him over a few other big guys, so we're hoping he's the guy in, hopefully weeks 15 and 16 too, but certainly week 17. And so, I agree that you kind of just build the team around him and then get some secondary stacks based on that. And then, of course, you still pick up ADP value along the way, but hopefully we have a decision that we can talk about later.
So Derrick Henry was still on the board, but I think I'm still taking shots on player values, Chuck. And I actually still have, or I have Achane ranked as my number one running back going into the 2025 season. So that's why I'm kind of happy to, even though obviously we know who Derrick Henry is and what he's capable of, I'm fine with this particular pick that I just made here in the second round.
On Devin Achane specifically, I've seen multiple discussions in different forums talking about if we knew that he was going to miss minimal games and Tua was going to miss minimal games, he should be maybe even a top six pick. So I like the value in Achane there for sure.
So, look, wasn't on there as like someone that's directly correlated with Neighbors, but this allows us to continue to kind of accumulate the roadmap, of trying to figure out the Lego pieces we need for the right team here. So, layer Miami into our stack seeker. And this is why I love this tool that Brian built alongside Moose here at occupyfantasy.com, is kind of as like something you can use while you're drafting. You kind of go in and plug in the teams that you need players or that you have selected players from, and it'll show you the teams that you need to select players from throughout the rest of your contest to build a well correlated lineup. And I think, to me, Chuck, that's the best way to build a great team here in tournaments for best ball. It's not just about week 17. I know that was the big thing everyone was talking about a couple years ago. It's really about all these playoff matchups and trying to get as many of these correlations in a smart way as we can.
Yeah, I mean, so my favorite combo in the first two rounds is Nico Collins and Lad McConkey. They have a Week 17 matchup, Houston versus Chargers, and that's like the simplest thing you can do, I think, in the first couple of rounds if you're going for that playoff correlation, because it's just, I think it's a really easy team to build out like that. Now, what you did with Devin Achane, I went ahead and looked at a couple players around him to see if they had any playoff opponents in common with Malik Neighbors, and no one did. And so there wasn't necessarily a more playoff correlated pick you could have made there. So I like the A-Chain pick regardless.
Yeah, we're still looking for ceiling, right? So I'm not going to be a slave to the correlation, but it's just something that we got to have in the back of our minds at all times. And look, I like to kind of use like a dual monitor or like a split screen so I can, it's hard to kind of demonstrate that effectively on a stream here, Chuck. But when I'm drafting and we're not doing shows, like that's kind of how I'm doing it. I've got my draft lobby in one part of my screen or on my first screen. And then I'll have kind of the stack seeker on my second screen or on the second half of my screen, depending on the computer that I'm using to kind of jump back and forth and figure out who I want to select. So it's a little bit more than just picking the players I think are going to score the most points. I'm trying to build a team that I think, under the right circumstances, has a little bit more ceiling upside.
And so I'm going to keep talking about Devin Achane. I'm really happy you did this in the stacking video because you're talking about the overall team and the upside. And now Devin Achane's upside is pretty tied to Tua being healthy, right? And so I think you really want to overdraft Tua on Achane teams, like every single Achane team. If you can get Tua as your QB2 or sometimes QB3, I think that's just fantastic because, like I said, I think their success is tied to each other. And it's not something a lot of people are doing, is stacking the running back with the quarterback. But a couple seasons ago, I can't imagine it changed too much. I didn't dive into it for the last season, but I went through almost every single quarterback, wide receiver, running back combo, and almost every single one showed a positive advance rate. even the quarterback running back stacks, that the running back did not catch passes, which I thought was the most interesting thing. And so that's something just with team correlation. Maybe that team got more yards, scored more touchdowns. And so that's also still important.
Yeah, it's pretty close to a principle that we talk about in NFL Showdown. Let's make our pick first. I was kind of hoping to get McLaurin. There was some playoff correlation there with Malik Neighbors that would have been good to have, but you know what we can do here? It's jumping down a few picks, but Mike Evans with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's correlated with Devin A-Chain, so that's what I want to do here, Chuck.
I was going to say, yeah, if McLaurin's there, we're taking McLaurin, but I actually like to do, in your spot, I would go with Mike Evans and then hope Metcalf made it back to me at the next pick.
Now,
And DK for that week 15 correlation with Miami.
I gotcha. Now, and even though we missed out on Scary Terry here, I mean, a big leap of faith. I don't know if he's going to make it back to him. It's going to be close, but like, would you consider a Jaden Daniels here for that Malik Neighbors correlation, and maybe we can backstack Jaden Daniels later? Like, I do like getting elite quarterbacks in my lineups, Chuck, and having the ninth pick overall, kind of where we are here, going into the fourth round. This is kind of my last shot to get one. You know what I mean?
So this is an interesting thing too that I'm happy. I'm so happy that we're coming up with all this discussion in the first 10 minutes. But let's say we got that Lad McConkey, Nico Collins stack. I would probably not go with the elite QB. I would just go with one of those guys' quarterbacks. But since Tua is really the only quarterback here we're targeting, maybe we'll go for Baker Mayfield later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really don't mind taking Jaden Daniels, even if he ends up naked by the end of the draft.
Oh, buddy, if we keep getting the players I want, I think I'm going to be the one that ends up naked by the end of the draft. All right, now we're a little out of pocket here, but we're getting excited about this team for sure because everything is kind of going the way that we want it to. I'm glad you brought up the quarterback running back correlations because it wasn't high on our list. I think initially to discuss. We're just going to take Jaden Daniels and figure it out later.
That guy's mad, the McLaurin guy.
Oh, he's probably forever Wildcat sore. If you're going to watch the show at some point, I apologize, sir. I'm only concerned about my own team, but I feel your pain because I've been there too. Yeah, so when Brian does showdown videos, because obviously we do our weekly DraftKings content here on the Occupy Fantasy channel, we talk about locking up all the scoring in a showdown matchup. We want to get the quarterbacks and the running backs in our low risk lineups if we can. And even though this is not a low risk contest, it's a high risk contest. Look, if we think Miami's offense is going to quote unquote outkick their coverage and be the offense that you need to have success this year in both kind of that regular season portion and the playoff portion of the contest, then yeah, we want to have exposure to all of their scoring, which would be Tua Tagovailoa and Devin Achane. So totally with you there. I don't think it applies to just Miami. It applies to any kind of offense that you're super high on. If you're building a best ball team this year, don't shy away from stacking that quarterback with the running back. I still prefer adding a pass catcher onto that, by the way, but I'm not like, I think that's something that's new for a lot of people is stacking the running back with the quarterback. You know, just want to make sure we highlight that that's completely fine in this format.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it again because I found it to be the most interesting piece of the data when I dove through it. It doesn't matter if your running back catches passes or not. Stacking him with the quarterback had positive correlation, I think, in 28 out of 30 teams. So
that's like virtually the entire field. So seems to
yeah,
be a really good idea. Chuck, other than the quarterback and the running back, I mean, kind of your information here, but let's just cover it. You obviously want to get the quarterback with his number one wide receiver. Those are going to be your most common stacks in these contests. More often than not, the Chase owner is probably going to try to draft Joe Burrow. The Jefferson owner is going to try to draft J.J. McCarthy. The Lamb owner is going to try to draft Dak Prescott, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we're sharing anything like any secret sauce there. But there are still ways to do that and differentiate. I do think maybe people still fall short of looking at that and then looking at some of those opposing running backs and wide receivers in those playoff weeks as well. I think that's still underdrafted. What do you think?
yeah. Someone actually presented the idea in our Discord today. They asked the question: Who's drafted more with Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, or Trey McBride? Trey McBride is on 24% of teams in this contest on Jamar Chase teams, and Marvin Harrison was only on 8% of Jamar Chase teams. Like that's just super easy playoff correlation to get some leverage. Oh man, I lost my train of thought.
Uh, Forever Wildcat is picking again here, and he's still mad about the Jaden Daniels snipe. So we'll see what he does to me here. I don't think I'll give you a second to think while I just kind of pontificate a little bit about what I'm trying to do here. Well, we've already discussed prioritizing Tua because we have Achan. So, what do we think about just going with Jalen Waddle here?
Oh, I like it. Yeah, if we're definitely going to plan to get uh, Tua, and that's another thing. Stacking two players with the quarterback
Mhm.
is great as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was just saying. Even if we're going to pair the quarterback with the running back, like let's not stop there. Let's still get a pass catcher to try to have as many shots at upside as we can have. Right. So I'm very happy with how this team is going so far.
And I look back. I had to look it back at AJ's comment in the Discord, but he was asking about taking Kyler Murray on that Jamar Chase team, which is something that's not done nearly as much as he's drafted with Joe Burrow, obviously. But if you're taking that McBride or Harrison for the correlation in the second round, then taking Kyler is another point of differentiation too.
Yeah, I think we've talked about mini stacks in the past, right? Like kind of skinny stacks. We talk about it in individual DFS lineups, but I think in this format, it's like we could still pair Jamar Chase and Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison. And then, like, what about layering on like a Lamar Jackson or a Jalen Hurts there? Like, basically, the only wager you're making at that point is that that quarterback outscores Joe Burrow or Kyler Murray, right? And that doesn't sound all that outrageous in a vacuum. So, like, I'm kind of okay with building stacks that way, is not just being like focused on stacking with my quarterback, just stacking up and down kind of the entire lineup. All right, we got to make a pick here, and obviously Laporta would be nice. Chris Godwin is Tampa Bay correlation. What do you think?
I would shy away from Chris Godwin since we have Mike Evans.
Interesting. So I went with Laporta, but why is that? Because I'll be honest with you, I've done it. I've built some Baker Mayfield double stacks with Evans and Godwin, uh, maybe like two or three times so far here in the Millionaire Maker contest. So I'm curious why you're a little skeptical on Godwin specifically with Evans.
Well, my first like split second reaction there was we already have a double stack going, and there are other Tampa Bay players we can stack with later, McMillan and Ekbuka, uh,
Okay.
maybe the tight end Kate Otten, and so we have other options. It's like I don't know that I've seen Chris Godwin fall far enough for you to take him in the next round, but I mean
There he
that feels a
goes.
lot
But
better.
yeah, so had I gone with that was the only other thing I had in mind. Had I gone with Godwin there, right? We would have had two Dolphins, two Bucks. Now we're looking at having five players from kind of the same championship week game there. I mean, I guess that leads to another interesting discussion we can have here. There's a line where you think we can take stacking too far, right? And is five players that, or does it really depend on the offenses we're looking at? Like, what do you think?
I think it depends on the offenses and the five players. Like someone asked about like let's go back to that Lad McConkey, Nico Collins example. Would you draft both Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud as the quarterbacks, even though they're playing in the same Week 17 game? And I think in general the answer is you don't want to do that. But for that one, I just think that so much of your team's success depends on that game going off that it's
Mhm.
okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are certain games that we're not going to do that for. Like, I don't think
Hmm.
we're going to try to get Russell Wilson and Geno Smith in the same lineup for that. What is that? The Giants and the Raiders in Week 17, which is a game that I'm interested in with neighbors on this team right now. Because I mean, hey, I don't know. I don't know the nicest way to say this. There's not as much upside there with those players as with some of the other guys, right? I guess is really all you can say.
And I don't know if I mentioned this already, but with Malik Neighbors too, we're not interested in his starting quarterback. Maybe we'll tack him on as a third QB, but we're not going to draft him with the intention of depending on him to score points for us.
Right. Okay. Laporta, by the way, didn't necessarily have any correlation with what I had here. Let's give an update to the stack secret just to kind of show everybody how robust it is. We got Tampa Bay in here. We got Washington. We have Detroit. Like as we go through our draft and we kind of layer all those teams in, you can see how you get this quick visual of the players you're looking for. You can see the round that you're in. You can even filter like I want to take a quarterback that correlates with this. You can filter it by that. Obviously wide receiver, running back, tight ends. So really love this stack secret tool, Chuck. It's one that I can't really stress enough how much upside it truly carries.
Oh yeah, it's just one of the most helpful tools. I mean, there's still a lot of people not thinking about this kind of thing. I mean, stacking, like I said, it's the most basic thing, and then playoff correlation on top of that. It's just two very easy things that you can do if you're not doing already to instantly improve your drafting success.
Shakir comes off the board. One of the things that's tough for me on these shows is like I want to say something and then I want to wait until like it's my pick because I don't want to jinx it and look silly. Um, Minnesota has correlation with both the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions, which obviously I'm interested in, with Malik Neighbors as my first receiver that I selected, and with Sam Laporta as the tight end that I just took here. And as it turns out, I'm going to have an opportunity to ask you, how do you feel about Jordan Addison this year?
In general, I like him on this team. This is just such a slam dunk.
Yeah. So now we have that. Opens up a lot more opportunities for us to continue stacking with, and I guess stacking with our players. Like I think when people think about stacks, they think, "Oh, I'm stacking the Lions, I'm stacking the Giants, I'm stacking the Vikings," and you and I think about this a little differently. So it's almost become second. I don't want to speak completely for you, but it's almost become second nature for us. But the way that I would flip my or rewire my brain when I think about drafting for best ball is you want to stack with the players you have and the opponents that they have in the playoff weeks. It's not just about building, a Steelers stack, a Bengals stack, et cetera, et cetera. It's really about building the highest upside team for the players that you have.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before on the show. I mean, the whole thing is selecting players, right? But I mean, even right closer to the season, right now we care a little bit less, but we're more interested in structure and overall team construction than we are in just individual player takes. You know, guys are drafted within 5 ADP of each other. It's not that big of a deal to just mix it up there.
We got a 1141 build currently on the board now. And then look, I want to layer in a little bit of player discussion because there's been some news. Got a little bit of a falling knife here in Quinshon Judkins with the Browns. Got a little bit of a domestic violence incident. Hasn't signed his rookie contract yet. How are you both? A, how are you treating Judkins? B, like how are you reacting to news like that in general and letting it affect your process right now?
Well, so a player like Judkins, I'm not going to take him at ADP right now because other people have the fear, and like his ADP probably falls no matter what. And so I'll scoop him up when he falls past ADP because let's say he's suspended for the first part of the season. The main point is he's there for the playoff weeks. And then I'm also tacking on some Samson, and I've been taking Jerome Ford, but especially if you're running a zero RB build, those guys could be really good as help at the beginning of the season while Judkins is probably suspended. But I mean, how fast do suspensions go in the NFL? I mean, is Rashi Rice, are we even still talking about him? Who knows if Judkins even ends up out?
Well, I mean, again, I think the risk ends up being baked into the price as Judkins kind of falls.
Mhm.
Like we'll see where his ADP normalizes here, but we can't stress this enough. Like we focus on having the end in mind here, right? And you want to have the highest upside teams in those playoff weeks. And it's these suspensions, they're typically at the beginning of the season. And obviously, it's important to score points every single week. I don't want to send the message that it's not. But if we're focused on having the highest upside rosters in those playoff weeks, if we're lucky enough to get there, then a player like Judkins is, if he's going to be at the top of the depth chart for the Browns at the end of the season at the running back position, he's becoming even more valuable as he slides into the ninth and 10th round by ADP. So, look, I know that there's some real world legal, moral kind of issues there, and that's not really what you and I are here to talk about. We're talking about playing a game and how to play that game effectively. So I totally respect everyone's kind of opinions on stuff like that outside of the arena of fantasy football. But bottom line, that's just really not what we're here to think about or talk about.
Yep, well said, dude.
So, and I ended up taking Brian Robinson to pair with Jaden Daniels. Kind of the theme of this show has turned somewhat into pairing running backs with quarterbacks. So it looks like
Love it.
we're gonna try to do that a couple of different times here. Now, are you? Is it appropriate to reach at all to prioritize your stacks? How far are you willing to reach, and like does that change for you depending on where you are on the draft board? Like, I guess that's my general question, and then my specific question for you is like, here at the 9-10 turn, that's pretty aggressive by ADP to just kind of make sure I get Tua Tagovailoa because he should be there in rounds like 11 and 12. But like, is it bad process for me to at least be considering it, be interested in that? Like, what should the viewers know about that?
Well, so Tua, as I've outlined a few times in this show, is like integral to the success of this team. I think you have Waddle and Devin Achane as top picks, and so I really think you just need to lock up Tua. The times that I might push him are maybe if someone else falls past ADP, that it's just this is a combo that I can't get in this round. That's when I would consider trying to push Tua, but I just don't know what other player you could draft over him, hoping to draft two in the next round that would help your team more than he would. But you already have Jaden Daniels, and so, you know,
I'm going to say something that might be controversial, but that's what I like to do on these shows and in this space. I've flag planted many times that I kind of like to make my own plays, my own opinions, and not really regard what the field is doing as much. Tua and Jaden Daniels have the same bye week. Do we care about that, Chuck? I'm almost more interested in that because I feel like people avoid the combo for that reason. As long as I have a third quarterback, I'm okay. That's how I look at it.
yeah, as long as I have one quarterback with open bye week or however you want to word it, I think it's fine.
And with that, how about Jared Goff with Sam Laporta real quick because we're on the clock? You think that makes any sense here?
Yeah, I like that too because you have that week 17 stack with Jordan Addison as well.
Bring it on. There's a lot of correlations here that are coming up by ADP. I pick again relatively quickly, but we'll see. Jordan Mason with the Vikings again. Jalen Warren correlation with Miami in Week 15, with the Lions in Week 16. I'm looking at the stack secret here offline. I know I have the draft on the screen. Uh, Even like a Cam Scatibo at running back. Like, again, these are the things I look at up and down the draft board once I've kind of started building a team out because I think this is the most effective way for me to stack with my players.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm looking at the draft board and I'm actually really surprised to see that maybe half these teams have a quarterback stack like that you can see just in these four picks. I mean, Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, and Golden. Kyler Murray had James Conner right there. Bo Nix has Engram.
Mm-hmm.
The Kelsey team has Mahomes. Baker has Ekbuka. I'm actually kind of impressed. Yeah, Brock Purdy with Brandon Ayuk. You got in a tough draft room, man.
We got a relatively smart room here. I would bet that this Travis Hunter here with Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's got the
Mm-hmm.
right idea here. That's definitely so. I guess what I got to think about then. Where did Tyreek Hill go? Tyreek went.
Went uh, second round, fifth
Okay,
guy.
so that's the guy I'm competing with for Tua. Do you think he's gonna snipe me here, or what do you think?
Did he have another quarterback? I didn't see him.
He has Josh Allen.
I wouldn't. I would push it if there's a player that you really want.
You know who I don't really want is Najee Harris. I'm going to take Jordan Mason here. This Jordan Mason look like a quintessential contingent value pick, right? Like if I think anyway, I'm personally pretty high on Aaron Jones. I think he has top 5 running back upside if he still has like 60% of team carries. But we know Mason can handle the volume. We saw him do it with San Francisco. I just I don't know if he's going to have like a 1A 1B role with Aaron Jones here out of the gate. That's my biggest concern there.
I'm looking at Jordan Mason as a pretty expensive handcuff. I don't expect him like he's going to score fantasy points most weeks. I would be surprised if he didn't, but uh, a score that we care about, I think that only happens if Aaron Jones goes down.
Okay. The good news is since I already have Achan, Brian Robinson, I think I have points at the position that I can at least get,
Oh yeah,
startable. But with Najee Harris, this is just kind of another one of those recent news things you and I haven't had a chance to discuss. Viewers here may have already kind of caught up to what happened since it was a couple of weeks ago, but had an unfortunate non-football injury on the 4th of July holiday with fireworks. I hope Najee's doing well, but as far as drafting for this contest, like I'm not sure what to do with him now. His ADP is falling, and I like value, but I mean, if he's not going to play, then it doesn't really matter, right?
yeah. This is yeah. I mean, like you said, I was going to say this is another player whose ADP is likely to fall because of the recent news, like Judkins. But yeah, if he's out, it doesn't really matter what ADP you get him at.
All right. So 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 receivers. One thing with stacking, I guess it's kind of something to keep on with stacking. It's not entirely on the arena of stacking, but just overall roster construction. Do you have a target build that you're trying to land on? And does the, I guess I'll say this a different way. The most often construction players are landing on here in DraftKings is 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 receivers, and 3 tight ends. Are you aiming for that? And then when you need something for your stack, like how does that play into your mentality? Like, are you basically looking at things as the contest progresses? And I'll use my own team as an example here. Are you like, okay, um, I'm looking for a Buccaneer and I need a running back. I should be looking at a Buccaneer running back, or like how are you using that information? I guess is my.
Not necessarily. I think we were doing that a lot at the end of last season, just tacking on a playoff correlation guy who, probably wasn't going to contribute many points there anyway. And so that's a consideration to make. How likely is this guy actually to contribute? But I don't know. A lot of times I want to let the draft board fall to me, see what's available at my pick, and a lot of times there is an easy pick that just makes sense given the build and whatever correlations I'm going for.
Like sweating this. I think we were in the clear because I think we got past the dude with Tyreek Hill. So I think I'm going to be able to get. Oh, did I just get sniped? Nope.
No, I was about to say I saw the
So
red too.
I I have him in my queue, and then like he came up in my auto draft window, and I was like, did he just get drafted ahead of me? He did not. I know it's a few picks ahead, but like you said, lock it down. It seems to be something with a lot of upside on my particular build here is to get to a Tagovailoa, and now I'm good. I don't have to stress about quarterback. I can just solely focus on correlating with the Dolphins, the Lions, and excuse me, and the Commanders. Almost said the old team name there. So, and obviously, I need a couple of tight ends. There's a few here that are still on the board. There's some good values on this board right now. I'm a little surprised by this. I don't want to jinx it, but there's another one. Well, he might before it comes back to me. I mean, like this feels like an aberration. I don't usually see David Njoku fall this far, Chuck. Like in general, we're looking to just kind of eat value when it falls, right?
Yeah, and on this Sam Laporta build, I don't mind taking that because then we can just stop at 2 tight ends. I did want to mention one of the things about stacking that I try to do in at least most drafts if the tight end goes late is if I have the quarterback, just take the tight end. It's such an easy positive advance rate correlation.
So I don't have the ability to take Ertz. Yeah, he went in the 11th round, but I guess you just
What?
made the case. Yeah, Ertz is already off the board, believe it or not. Um, I should be interested in Darren Waller at least slightly, purely because I got some Dolphins players here, or that would be my 4th Dolphin. Is that too many Dolphins for you? Like again, how do you feel about that?
Fourth Dolphin is tough, but like Darren Waller is free, and you already have Sam Laporta, so bricking on Darren Waller doesn't. I don't think it kills the team. And let's say he ends up being good, now you have 2 Sam Laportas in the playoffs.
So I was hoping I would get Njoku. He finally went. I'm not again. It's not typically a player that would be available in this range, so I'm not going to sweat that too heavily. I could take Rashad White. That would be. Well, I think I'm going to still go with tight end. He's a former Miami Dolphin. He just was traded to Pittsburgh. It's going to be Jonnu Smith for me. We think. I don't know. It's kind of anecdotal. I'm using intuition here a little bit, but I assume you go out and you make a trade for a player like Jonnu Smith. You're probably going to put him at the top of your depth chart at that position. I think over the years with the Falcons and the Steelers here, fantasy players and analysts, we've made a lot of mistakes trying to figure out whatever it is Arthur Smith is trying to do with that offense. But I feel like this is a pretty safe assumption with Jonnu Smith going ahead of Pat Fryermuth, right?
I mean, it has to be, but I don't get it. I thought Fryermuth was fine, and Johnny Smith obviously had a better season last year, but I don't know that I see Johnny Smith that far. I mean, Fryermuth was bad. It's got to be better than that, and I don't know. Maybe they just run some 2 tight end sets, and I'm still looking at Fryermuth as a pretty okay value if I need a tight end because I tend to do some 4 tight end builds.
Look at the red on the screen here.
Yeah, I
I think, in,
noticed it. Yeah.
I think it was show number 2. It was one of the shows we did back in June. I talked about how you get into kind of like the quarterback wall here in the draft in the middle, and it just hasn't changed. This is definitely where everyone panics and realizes, oh, I need at least two quarterbacks. And as you look across all the teams here, we got a little over or a little under half the draft to go, excuse me, but everybody has at least two quarterbacks. So, as you're considering your stacks, you just remember that as well. You got to kind of build. If you don't have two quarterbacks by now, you're going to be hurting because you're going to be looking to, get into that Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson tier, and I don't think that's where you want to be this year. We looked at some of the winning lineups from previous seasons here on DraftKings, specifically 2024. I like Munchie underscore 420. This was the winner last year. Shout out to the Best Ball subreddit over on Reddit. I like the discussion that I saw on here from a couple months ago, Chuck, because kind of here's the lineup. I'll highlight it. The users here kind of reacting to this like, I don't really see a stack here. Is stacking dead? Is stacking not something that we want to do? Yeah, like not one stack in the whole lineup, super balanced. Maybe stacking is overrated. So here we are. You and I are aspiring, or we're analysts in the community. We're doing this professionally here. What do we think about this? Is this a one-off, or is stacking still viable here? Like, what we obviously need to react to this and have some kind of approach moving forward. Stacking didn't win the big prize last year in this particular contest, so does that mean anything to us?
So what I alluded to earlier about when you stack, it's one less thing you have to get right. Just, if you draft Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they connect for a touchdown. It's a lot of fantasy points. You have another quarterback. Now you need two events to happen, and two touchdowns have to happen separately. And so it's just a lot more random. And so like the winning lineup is almost always going to have a stack. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of surprising that there wasn't any in that one, but I'm thinking about like in DFS too. The optimal sometimes doesn't have a stack. It's just a random collection of players, but it's impossible to get to. That's why we take the stack, because it makes our decisions easier.
You and I are on the same page. I still think stacking is extremely valuable. You're talking about a contest that has
Millie.
eight. It's not on this particular screen, but it's like over 800,000 entrants, right? Like you're bound to see some weird stuff happen in a contest like that. I think if we go back to the same data source, which I'll do after I make my pick here in round 14, we'll look at the team that came in second, still won $1 million. Was an extremely well done stack lineup. Like there were two games for week 17 in that lineup for the player that came in second place. If we looked at some of the winning lineups and some of the smaller contests up and down the board, I'm sure we'd see more stacking. If we looked at all the finalists in general, which to your point at the beginning of the show, focus on just kind of advancing and getting into that winner take all showdown, I guarantee you there were a ton of stacks in every finalist lineup. Okay. I haven't taken a receiver in a while. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I had four receivers through round 7. I still only have four receivers total. In general, how do you feel about building a team like that?
I find myself in this spot a lot because I tend to draft top heavy with receivers, and so I usually don't really care because I feel like I'm strong enough at the top end. And then there's so many darts that I really don't mind taking at the end of these 20 round drafts. Cedric Tillman's one of them.
Yeah, I think you look at somebody that's going to have the ability to start week in and week out. Yeah, I know we all know what the state of the offense in Cleveland is, but look, I still we're not too far removed from Kevin Stefanski winning a playoff game with Baker Mayfield, and then obviously we see what Baker Mayfield has turned into since he departed Cleveland. He's actually a pretty strong player. The bottom line in these contests is, yeah, we got to be mindful a little bit that we want players on good teams. We've said that many times, but we also want players that are going to be on the field, that are going to be seeing targets. And if we are going to take players that are on teams that we expect to be bad, we at least want them to be starters because we want them to have as many opportunities as scoring points to crack our lineup. And Cedric Tillman right now, he does project to be a starter. So I think good value here in the 14th round.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys near the end here that might, dribble in 9, 8, 7, 10 fantasy points a week, whatever. But Cedric Tillman, I feel like he's a player who could give us 2, 3 on a week, but then the following week put up 20 plus, which is what we want, rather than the guy averaging. Like they both average 10, but we'd rather the guy boom or bust every other week than the guy that's consistent. consistently bad anyway.
I weighed pairing Austin Eckler with Brian Robinson. How do you feel about that in some of these split backfields? Are you doing that? Are you avoiding that? Just, I guess that would be a little bit of a non-traditional stack. Another one, maybe I guess the most marquee one I could think of is Gibbs and Montgomery. Like, are you putting players like that together, or like how are you handling that?
Maybe if I got some crazy ADP value, but I'd be surprised. Maybe I've done it once or twice in the drafts I've done, but it's not something like it's something I actively avoid. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hit on the guy there, and I'm drafting a ton of teams. Hopefully, one of them just has the right combo.
Folks, remember to download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million dollars and get a second ticket to play for free for a share of that $15 million dollars. Two chances for a huge score whenever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one only here on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Draft starts to kind of fly here because people they get bored,
Leave.
whatever. These players don't matter. But I think you and I can't stress enough that that is not true. These players do matter, and we want to make sure we're still correlating. We want to make sure we're taking values. Jerome Ford is kind of shooting up the board in light of that Quinshon Judkins news you and I talked about earlier. Cleveland has some correlation with Pittsburgh, which I already have, with the Dolphins, with my Tua stack, and you can see how this starts to get convoluted, but these are the things that I'm being mindful of.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in our next video of some of our biggest targets, but Jerome Ford is squarely in there for me. I think I already thought he was undervalued before the Judkins news, but now I think that the floor is probably very low, but the ceiling is pretty good for how late he's going in drafts.
I'm excited to go through our player takes specifically because you and I, well, buddy, we have them, and we have
Yeah.
some extravagant exotic ones. We have opinions that are going to make people super angry. And look, if you're not doing that, then you're just not really a real fantasy analyst. I'll put it that way. You got to have some strong opinions in this space. I am still interested in trying to get to like 8 receivers, 6 running backs here. I've already got all my quarterbacks. I've already got all my tight ends, and I kind of feel like that empowers me here, Chuck, to kind of reach a little bit for the players that I do like. I've already got a lot of stacking done in the playoff weeks with my quarterbacks, with some of my high upside players. So I don't mind like also sprinkling in these spots just players in general that I'm high on that I want to have on my teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I used to care way too much about ADP value, even late in drafts, but now it's the last 5 rounds. Draft whoever you want. Like I know exactly who I would take here. Curious if you take him.
Was that the guy?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's too easy. And what's the difference between taking him now or in 2 rounds? He's better. Like we're prioritizing him. We're pretty high. This is one of our top picks preview for the next video. But just take him if that's the guy you want. If there's someone you'll be disappointed by missing.
Look, we're in the point of the draft here around 14, 15, 16, right? Like where these guys, they're not going to be cracking our, in an ideal scenario, they're not going to be cracking our starting lineup that much anyway. So uh, there is like an objectively, I guess, intelligently, quote unquote, correct way to be approaching these spots. But this is a perfect range to just kind of take your guys and, you know, preview Dante Thornton Jr. We did talk about him in June. He's still one of our guys, so I'm happy to have him.
And back to that point I was making a few minutes ago, look at like Demario Douglas and Tyler Lockett. Those are guys who I would not be surprised if they gave us 8, 9, 10 points almost every week very consistently. Like it locks in a floor for our lineup. But then a player like Alec Pierce, who some weeks he's not going to give us any points, but the week scores, it's an 80-yard touchdown. And I'm hoping Dante Thornton kind of fits in that Alec Pierce
Yeah.
category more than the Tyler Lockett.
What do we think
And then
about?
I was just say Tank Dell. He's not playing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you in general these injured guys, Dell, Christian Watson. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit in June. I think you said you were kind of out on them. Doesn't sound like that has changed.
No, I'll take it on a case by case basis. But basically, if they're going to be back earlier in the season with enough time to ramp up by the playoffs, I'm in. Like Stephon Diggs, I think he's a pretty good value. But some of these guys, like Tank Dell, might come back by the end of the season. He won't be ready for the playoff week, so I'm
I
not.
wanted to get back to this Shout out to Reddit, by the way. But I wanted to get back to this second place lineup. Shout out to See Me Win 007. That's a pretty solid handle, by the way. This is his team here. He had a Bears and a Seahawks kind of game stack, if you will, with Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet. Actually, just the Bears. I don't see a Seahawk here unless I'm just missing it. Keep me honest. And then he had Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and George Kittle. That was the highest scoring game in Week 17 last year, and that's what got him pretty darn close to the prize. He missed out by 7 points, but pretty big games that week from each of Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and George Kittle. So look, I think that's the overall conclusion. That's a good place to kind of draw towards concluding this video. Stacking is not dead, folks. It still won somebody $1 million last year, so don't buy into the hype that stacking is dead. We are still very much interested in stacking with our players on these rosters here. And I don't have a Cincinnati Bengal yet to pair with the Miami Dolphins, so we're going to go with Andre Yoshivac.
And going back to that second place team real quick, that Caleb Williams stack is so interesting. DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. Like, Cole Kmet sucked, but that QB running back tight end stack, I'm thinking, is probably not taken as much as it could be.
So there we go. Do we think that's the upside here? Drafted
I like
a little
it.
bit less by the field, so
Yeah.
obviously I didn't execute it here entirely, but I didn't get the running back, but I got Goff and Laporta. So you're saying mixing in, like, it'd be tough with the ADP, but like a Gibbs or a Montgomery with those two, like a Tua HN and Waller, or a Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, or Austin Eckler with Zach Ertz. Like, yeah, I can definitely see these being lower owned stacks. I think that's kind of interesting, Chuck.
I like those cheaper ones more. They're a lot easier to get on a consistent basis. And looking here, like, Caleb was around ADP 100. DeAndre Swift was ADP 100. Cole Kmet, I think, was 120, 130 last year.
How
And
about,
so that's a pretty cheap stack.
I'll give you one that's one of my favorites. I haven't
Can we
pulled
go
it
back
off.
to the draft board?
Thank you for reminding me, because I do tend to forget to do that. I'll give you one that I executed in part, at least, but I had my mind on in one of the drafts I did recently here. During Best Ball week, DraftKings had a nice offer earlier this week where you got $10 back on every 2 entries up to 3 times. More offers throughout the week here for Best Ball week on DraftKings. It is the official Best Ball week. I like rookie quarterback Ken Ward with the Titans with Chiga Conquo, and you could go with, you could go with either Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears as your running back there in that one. Everybody just threw up in their mouths a little bit. I literally just threw up in my mouth a little bit when I was talking about it, but it's definitely an interesting thing to consider.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up now, because I did want to mention a few of the backstacking ideas. Let's say you miss out on your top receivers, quarterbacks, and it's going to happen where your top 4 receivers, all their quarterbacks are off the board. But Cam Ward is a pretty easy backstack. There, like you mentioned, Chiga Conquo, and then the rookie Alec Iomanor. Tyler Lockett goes pretty late. I wanted to mention, like, I think Geno Smith with Vegas is a pretty good backstack with Dante Thornton. Jack Beck is there. Trey Tucker's still there. Aaron Rodgers has everyone but George Pickens, basically. There's a couple others, but think about that too. Like, missing out on your top receivers quarterback is not the end of the world, and your team is not dead.
Yeah, and that I mean, that's definitely, look, that's another way to use the stack seeker. Let's like, I can kind of narrow in on a specific team, right, and just kind of focus on, like, I want a Lion who's left. It's getting late in the draft. We've got, let's look at, round 19. You got, or in 20, we got 3 receivers we could consider if we wanted to stretch our Detroit exposure, and you still need a receiver. Isaac Tesla, Khalif Raymond, Tim Patrick. Again, this kind of plays into just not being a slave to, like, the true, like, ADP order, and just kind of looking for the values that fit your roster. I guarantee you, maybe not so much with Tesla because he's a rookie and people tend to take those guys late, but I guarantee you teams aren't really drafting Raymond or Patrick that much this year, just as an example.
Yeah, like Trey Tucker on Vegas, we strongly prefer Don Thornton. Like, we've seen Trey Tucker for a while, but I'd be surprised if he didn't have a couple spike week games. And so you can even get that really cheap double stack after Geno's drafted. Like, Alan Lazard is a player I would only, in 2025, I would only ever stack him on an Aaron Rodgers team if he gets announced playing for the Steelers.
Here goes Tyler Higbee. There goes that man. Troy Franklin. I haven't really seen him go in every draft. He was kind of interesting a little bit last year. Let's lock in a little bit. 3-4-8-3. I think I need 2 more running backs. I think I'm okay at receiver, having gone 3 receivers in a row here. So I did want to talk about Ferguson. Maybe talk about that on the players to select show that'll be coming up tomorrow that everybody will get to see. Okay, I like Raheem Mostert a lot, especially on pretty much only on rosters where I don't have Jonty. It's interesting to me that Sincere McCormick has actually jumped him in ADP at the running back position on the same team. But we're like deep in the weeds now on running backs that really aren't going to have much value unless there's a change in the depth chart ahead of them. But I still think there's some value in correlating even with these players, you know?
Yeah, I found that my guy end of drafts is Madison. I think he's a great backup. Devin A. Chain is known to miss time, and the playoff correlations Pitt, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay. I'm drafting players from all those teams. So,
My guy late has been Devin Singletary with the Giants. We
Mhm.
saw the volume last year. I'm still not convinced he's truly third fiddle behind Tracy and Skatibo. I think that he's going to have a chance to at least kind of earn some more reps here to at least start the season. But that said, I need an Eagle in Week 16. My Washington players.
You already
We
know.
did have a report from Jimmy Kempski, beat report writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, earlier this morning that it feels like the only true roster locks at running back are Saquon and Will Shipley. So I was obviously interested in Shipley earlier. That ship sailed. I was not able to get him. Another owner did. Uh, are we okay with taking an AJ Dillon here in the last round, even knowing like there's a real risk he doesn't even make the team?
I wouldn't, but AJ Dillon, he personally hurt me. So
He personally hurt you in what way?
I drafted him so much, and he did nothing.
Okay. I'm going to go with Devin Singletary here because I can't
I
stand
like
for
it.
somebody that hurt my boy Chuck. So,
Thank you.
look, I have taken AJ Dillon a few times, and I think the best way to think about a player like him is, look, we don't want it to happen. We're not rooting for it, but we're still trying to play a game and win the game here, right? God forbid
Yeah.
anything happens to Saquon Barkley and it completely changes the landscape of Philadelphia's backfield. We don't have to go too far in the past to come up with an example. Look at San Francisco from last season. Christian McCaffrey barely played, and you really needed those other San Francisco running backs that you got free ADP value on all summer long to have a shot to win any real or at least to advance. I don't think they did well in the playoff weeks because we were into Garendo by the time the playoffs came around. But you really needed Jordan Mason to kind of, he was one of your higher advance rate players last year. So something like that happens. You get one of these round 18, 19, 20 running backs that plays a lot. They're going to help you get to the playoff weeks.
Yeah, and zero RB is still strong. I've mentioned it on every show. The running backs are pushed up too far, in my opinion. The elite wide receivers at the end of the first round, second round are very, very strong. Draft a running back or two early, but then take the value.
That is going to do it for this team. We landed on a 3-6-8-3 build. Chuck, we stacked up and down the board with the Miami Dolphins, the Washington Commanders, and the Detroit Lions. I feel pretty good about this team. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does throughout the fall, but I'm also looking forward to what you all think about stacking, what you all think about this team I drafted, what you all think about the free best ball stack seeker, which I put back on the screen here to end the video. Please leave some comments on this video and let us know what you think. We'll be in there responding to them throughout the rest of the summer and answering any questions you guys have about best ball. Chuck, do you have anything on stacking you want to share with the people before we wrap this one up?
No, I think we went into pretty good depth on it. Throw your favorite stacks in the comments, and then if you achieve a pretty nice stack team, throw it in Discord. Let's talk about it. We have guys critiquing builds in there all day.
Chuck, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Hey, thank you. We'll see you guys next time.